Hello and welcome to Mindshifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Friday, November 26th, 2021. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered in my over 47 years of doing therapy. These tools are available absolutely free at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the Start Here link in the upper left-hand corner, it will take you to a page where you can download and listen to Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Rice's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that particular chapter in that book contains a narrative description of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've been using to great effect for over 17 years to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships, and to turn any experience of a negative emotion into part of the infallible guidance system that each one of us has been given. You can also download the actual worksheet process itself. It's a simple PDF file. Just click on the link, download it, print it off, copy it, and use it as often as you'd like. There's also a host of audio files of shows you can download of audio files of shows just like this one, where people have either been stepped through that worksheet process or given powerful testimonials about how the application of that tool, active application of that tool in their lives, has created great benefit. You can also go to your app store and type in the three words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness, and before you're done typing the word forgiveness, you'll see the glowing heart icon. And if you tap on that, it will let you download a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet, an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. And we help people do that soon and often because that often creates comments, questions, or requests for support in doing a worksheet. And if you have any of those, give us a call at 563-999-3581. Call that number, press 1, and we can have a conversation. We're also doing the Course in Miracles workbook lessons this year. Today is the 330th day of the year. Today's lesson simply reads, I will not hurt myself again today. The commentary reads, let us this day accept forgiveness as our only function. And in this work and in Michael Rice's work, the word forgiveness here means the dismantling of whatever is not real. The dismantling of or detachment of the energy we pour into the illusions and the distortions that we create. Why should we attack our minds and give them images of pain? Why should we teach our minds, that is, that they are powerless when the Creator holds out its power and its love and bids them take what is already theirs? The mind that is made willing to accept the Creator's gifts has been restored to spirit and extends its freedom and its joy as the will of the Creator united with its own. The full self, the whole self, the larger self, which the Creator created, cannot sin and therefore cannot suffer. Let us choose today that whole self be our identity, and thus escape forever from all things the dream of fear appears to offer us. Creator, your offspring cannot be hurt. And if we think we suffer, we but fail to know our one identity, and we fail to share it with you. We would return to it, our true identity, and conscious awareness of our unity with you today, to be made forever free from all mistakes, and to be saved from what we thought we were. The Pam Grout's Course in Miracles Experiment Lesson 330 is titled, Who Wants to Know? And she quotes Pico Iyer. Pico said, the mind is the strutting actor on the stage who knows how to complicate the simple and unweave the rainbow. Pam writes, there's love, and then there's fear. There's the divine, and then there's the ego. One always makes you feel good, the other doesn't. I get to decide to which I'm going to listen. Lesson 330 says it's a no-brainer. Why hurt myself? Why give myself images of pain? Why do that when I can just as easily accept my freedom, indulge my joy, and it pays to stop and question who's asking. Is it the divine who's asking, or is it the ego? So that's our Course in Miracles experiment commentary and the Course in Miracles workbook lesson for today, day 330 out of the year. And as usual, we've got about 50 minutes to take your comments, questions, answers, soliloquies, commentaries, refutations. Our call-in number is 563-999-3581. If you call that number and press 1, it will put a little hand up. Actually, a little icon of a hand is in the latest change addition to the Blog Talk Radio switchboard. If you put your hand up, I will click on that link and open up the phone lines, and we can have a conversation. How can we support you today? As I've mentioned over the past few days, I have been working with another Pema Chodron book, and one of the things that came to me very, very strongly last night was how important it is to stop putting people and things on a pedestal. And it was quite shocking when this came to me so strongly. And I thought about talking about it on the internet show today, and then I thought, no, I really shouldn't do that. And here's what came to me. It is of ultimate importance that we quit putting anyone or anything on a pedestal, including God and Jesus or Yeshua. And as soon as I had that thought, I thought, well, I probably shouldn't share that with the internet show. That's going to be too. There are people who believe that Yeshua was the greatest teacher ever, and in a way, to my mind, that's like putting Yeshua on a pedestal. And Yeshua is the ancient Aramaic name for the one known in this culture today as Jesus. And if you look at, if you take the time to start reading a wide variety of sources about the life of Jesus, and was there really a Jesus? Was there a real historical person, Jesus? What were his teachings meaning? And not from any particular religion, but from scholars and philosophers and the people that worked on Dr. Michael Rice's team of translators that were working to translate the Khabouris manuscript, which is the oldest known copy of the New Testament, directly from the ancient Aramaic into English. What you hear over and over again is that, unlike what is purported in so many religions, what you hear is that Jesus or Yeshua was a man, just like any other man. And he maybe had a little bit deeper understanding from a much younger age about the importance of finding a different way to look at life than what was being kind of conditioned into us. And so he had perhaps a stronger passion for learning and questioning than the average person. And but that's it. He was a person like every other person. He had to be led and taught, and he had to work with exercises that helped him dismantle whatever you want to call it, of conditioning or brainwashing, and allow him to be in a somewhat altered state more and more often throughout his life. And he had struggles. I mean, the movie The Mirror Theory, the book The Mirror Theory, which is it just came into my life at the perfect time to be a really influential book. However, I was raised Catholic, so it was very much of a stretch, and I almost just put the book down after reading the intro. And because the intro and the premise of the book is that a teacher showed up at this woman's house, Betsy. His name was Charlie, at a time when she was very troubled in her life. And the teacher started talking to her about Jesus as a real person, when he grew up, the family he had, the lessons he learned from his interactions with each family member, brothers, sisters, mother, father, aunts, uncles, cousins, whatever. And if it hadn't been that book had been referred to me by someone I trusted and respected, I would have just dropped it at the intro. But that was one of the first books where just talking about Jesus or Yeshua as an actual person just like everybody else, with dynamics with siblings, with dynamics with parents, etc. One of the first ones that I made it all the way through. And then, of course, there's been, probably several dozen books since then from scholars and from researchers and from philosophers, people who've heard the story. What are the missing years in Jesus' life? What happened from, age 12 to 33 or whatever? And there are all kinds of different stories about how he was a traveler. He was hungry for knowledge, how he sought out teachers, and he did the work to change his ability to perceive. and to try and move closer and closer to actuality rather than the conditioned upset that most of us are trained into. So if I put Jesus or Yeshua on a pedestal, if I look at him and say, oh, what a great teacher, oh, what great wisdom he had, I miss the truth. The truth is, you're no different than anybody that's ever lived in terms of your ability to access wisdom. One of the things that came to me to say a few years ago, it was in response to some conversations that were going on the internet show, and it just came to me so clearly. Listen, wisdom cannot be possessed. You don't have wisdom. I don't have wisdom. Yeshua didn't have wisdom. We can't possess it. And yet, everyone can access it. There is this connection to a higher level of mind and integration. There is a connection to the one mind, if you want to talk about it that way. Michael Rice talks about, from the ancient Aramaic, the name Ruka Dukudsha, and how it represents an elemental force specific to humans that's available to everybody. It's part of who you are at inception, at awareness, at your creation. And that elemental force specific to humans is there specifically for the purpose of being able to break off the effects of your errors in thought and guide you to truth and happiness if you just ask it to. So you have to have the willingness. You have to have what Michael Rice likes to say, in order to be sane, you have to be out of your mind. You've got to put the conscious logical mind aside. You're never going to, like Pema Chodron book was saying the other day, your mind will never be able to comprehend enlightenment. So here's a really good exercise to get into when you sit down to meditate. Say to your mind, I know you're going to be chattering on with all kinds of thoughts while I'm meditating, and that's okay. I also want you to know, mind, I'm not the least bit interested in any thoughts that you can muster. The second thing to say to your mind is, I am interested in learning. I'm interested in learning about enlightenment, and no thought can show me enlightenment. So I need to step out of the conscious logical mind, and I need to ask to be shown. When I do that, I, just like anybody else, just like Yeshua, just like Muhammad, just like Gandhi, just like Krishnamurti, just like Mary Baker Eddy, just like any of these other great minds, I can get access to some wisdom. I will never possess it. It's a momentary thing that comes in the awakened moment, and it passes. Each moment is uniquely its own. So one moment I can have access to and act from some wisdom, some direct observation that's far closer to actuality, and then the next moment I can be just as deaf, dumb, and blind as the people I despise most, which is a really good reason to give up despising people, to give up judgment at every level whenever I catch myself doing the judging. So, wisdom cannot be possessed. It can only be accessed. And if I move to put anyone or anything on a pedestal, including God, here's another thing that came to me a number of years back to say, only the ego wants to know God. Right? Because the ego has put God on a pedestal. And the ego has put God as something external. And the ego is that fear-based set of thoughts and images that come from having placed an artificial perception in the way of what used to be life and what used to be direct experience of life. At one point in the Course in Miracles, it says, perception was created as an attack on God, on what actually is. Right? So the perception are the pictures and thoughts that our minds make up and as our minds, our brains make up those pictures, our brain tries to convince us that the pictures are a 100% infallible representation of what's going on in the world around us, when in truth, our minds can't even begin to approximate what's going on outside of us, because our brain only can focus on a tiny fraction of the input that's coming to our senses in each moment, and our senses are only picking up a tiny fraction of everything that's happening. And even our own science tells us that. Our science tells us our ears only hear a small range of the frequencies that we call vibrations, that when our ears register them, we call them sounds. Our eyes only see a narrow window of the vibration of energy that is called the light spectrum. There's ultraviolet we don't see, there's infrared we don't see, and Lord knows whatever else. And on and on. So no matter how concentrated, no matter how present in the moment we think we are, we will never understand actuality in its fullness, simply because we're relying on our senses to give us those pictures, and our senses are only picking up a tiny fraction of all that's there, and our conscious logical mind can only register a tiny fraction of everything that our senses pick up in each moment. So the questioning, the opening to question, here's this definition of the Holy Spirit, or Ruka Dakucha. An elemental force specific to humans that's available to break off the effects of our errors in thought. Here it is. This is why Michael Rice includes the phrase sustained incoherence in each new worksheet. What is sustained incoherence? It's a term coined by the physicist David Bohm to stand for what happens when this process of thought, which was never designed to help us understand our mental emotional processing. It's simply there to help us navigate through the physical realm, just like our perceptual mind. And it has specific flaws in the process, in the fundamental nature of thought itself, that continue to create problems for us in the realm of thought, in the realm of our emotional lives, in the realm of our relationships. So we use the thought, we create a problem, and then we think, we better keep thinking until we solve the problem. But we're using a tool that creates more of the problem. So here is the definition for Ruka Dakucha, Holy Spirit. The description of it is an elemental force specific to humans, that's our gift, that's designed to help us break off the effects of our errors in thought. What does that mean? This definition of the Holy Spirit includes awareness that there's a problem with the process of thought. There's a fundamental problem with the process of thought. And the Holy Spirit is our way past that, to break off the effects of our errors in thought and guide us to truth and happiness. What do we have to do to get that benefit? Stand on our heads in a corner? Go to church every Sunday? Make pagan sacrifices? No. What we have to do to get that benefit is ask to be shown. Well, if I'm asking to be shown, and I'm asking, what am I asking? Who am I asking? Certainly not the priest, certainly not the rabbi, certainly not the minister, certainly not the police officer, certainly not the judge. I'm asking within the construct of my own consciousness. And I'm not creating an image of an outside deity or an outside teacher, or I'm just asking within the confines of my consciousness to be shown. And when I do that, I'm not creating a pedestal, and I'm not placing anyone or anything on the pedestal. So, this is what came to me, along with an immediate warning, don't share this on the internet. But it came to me last night to say how important it is for every one of us to quit putting people and things, even God, up on a pedestal. And then, not long after that came to me, I remembered, there's places in the Way of Mastery where Jesus is talking and saying, Yeshua is talking and saying, look, I can loan you my strength for a while, but eventually you're going to have to say, hey, Yeshua, stop, put me down. I want to climb off your shoulders. I need to get on with this on my own. Because where each of us needs to go in our own life and development cannot be done for us by someone or something outside of us. It must be done by the infinitely powerful forces inside of us that have nothing to do with our thoughts, with our school book learning, with our listening to gurus. It has to do with an internal process. There it is. I took the risk and I shared the thing that as soon as it came to me last night, the follow-up thought was, you better not share this on the internet because that's going to rankle some people. So here's the invitation for today's show. Begin to notice where and how often and in what ways you put anyone or anything up on a pedestal, including Yeshua, including God, including your guru, your mentor. And just notice when that happens. And then step back and notice what results you get. And, for some of us, it's going to be, there's some temporary positive results. There's going to be a nice buzz. There's going to be this sense of security. There's going to be this, wow, I'm following the smartest teacher that ever was, right? I'm on God's team. I'm in the right religion. I'm in the right cult, etc. And just keep observing, because the more I put somebody on a pedestal, the further I move myself from the work I need to do to experience the connection that's already in me to that source of wisdom. Remember, wisdom cannot be possessed. It can only be accessed, and everyone has access to it. So, that's our extended intro for today. Our call-in number is 563-999-3581. And I think there's about 25, 26, 27 minutes left. So we can take your comments, your questions, your refutations. Any thoughts about the potential need to stop putting anyone or anything on a pedestal, including Yeshua, including God? Thoughts? Reactions? One of the things that comes to me is the story that's in Way of Mastery in the 7th lesson. And in the 7th lesson, there's a story that the title of the lesson is Birthing the Mind of Christ. And essentially, this the idea of the Christ mind work, the Course in Miracles, the Yeshua letters, the Way of Mastery is a trilogy of books. The idea of this is to bring into actuality on the planet many, many, many people who are able to tap into the Christ mind. It says, that which knows, that which comprehends immediately, that is the mind of Christ. So what keeps us from knowing immediately, connecting deeply with that inner source? What does? Fear. And in that lesson 7 about birthing the mind of Christ, what keeps us from birthing the mind of Christ more quickly, more easily, more efficiently? It's fear. And so the truth that is true always is that you are as you were always created to be, that you and your Creator are one. Right? So it says, don't strive to heal the world. Don't do anything to make a show about how much you love another person. Give up the concept of being a busy bee. Simply be the presence of love. Be that because you know that there is absolutely no value in being anything else. And in truth, you've never succeeded at being anything but the presence of love. Each sane moment that you've experienced, each moment of unlimitedness, each moment of genuine intimacy, each moment of grace-filled joy that you have ever known, in whatever form it seems to appear, has come because you've allowed your mind to slip into the sea of peace. And there you've merely abided, empty, wanting nothing, seeking nothing, being merely the presence of what you are. So what then could ever possibly arise to obstruct the truth that is true always, that you are one with your Creator in each and every present moment? So he tells a story. He says, there is an ancient forest on your planet forest so high in a rugged mountain valley and so rugged that no one has ever been there. Unknown to the minds of humanity, life goes on in the forest. Deep within the heart of this forest, this morning, a little tiny blade of grass seemed to be tossed by an unseen wind. As that blade of grass was tossed, for just a fragment of a moment, so subtle and soft was this wind that as the sunlight played against this blade of grass, it cast the smallest of conceivable shadows on a stone that was just a little bit away from the blade of grass. No one noticed. The shadow had no effect. The rock did not even notice. No one on the planet noticed. No one in any of the heavens noticed except me. You see, I needed something to build a story around. That tiny shadow, cast by a little blade of grass, momentarily wiggling in a wind in some remote forest, has virtually no effect on the turning of the planets, the creation of new suns, and certainly not one trace of effect on how deeply the Father loves you. That little shadow is what you have been given power to. That little shadow is what you have given power to. For you, it seems to be able to obstruct the truth within you from being lived. For the moment, you gave that little tiny shadow power. In that very moment, fear was born. Fear is always a contraction away from love. And fear makes you smaller than the blade of grass in that momentarily seems to cast a tiny shadow and therefore obstructs your recognition of the warmth of the sun that bathes you always. So when you resist healing, when you struggle to learn to, quote, speak your truth, close quotes, you may rest assured that something has occurred just prior to that. What is it? It was your decision to believe that that tiny little shadow is all-powerful. It was your decision to believe that if you heal, if you grow, if you change, if you let the Christ mind live in you, that that little blade of grass and the little tiny shadow it creates for a very temporary moment will come up and punish you and crush you. If you can truly take this story into your being and recognize the utter laughability of such a belief, you will never again fear fear. You will never again allow fear to master you and direct the course of your life. This doesn't mean you won't feel fear. You will feel fear, but you'll recognize it. You'll step back and watch it. You'll observe it from the observer position and move into the state of being, which paradoxically allows you to accomplish more in the realm of doing, when that doing is in line with the extension of this energy of love that is your true nature. Try to imagine for a moment that it is possible to create a pedestal for someone, and in the same moment, not create fear. I would offer that what you will observe is that every time I create a pedestal, every time I put God, love, Yeshua, my guru, my teacher, my father, my mother, every time I put someone on a pedestal, I am either creating or reinforcing, strengthening a conclusion that generates fear. Every time I think somebody else has an answer that I don't have, I create the fear that I won't get the answer that I need. I create the fear that I won't understand the answer as well as they understand it. And every move of that nature is counterproductive, moves me further and further from where I say I want to be. So how is it that you put people on a pedestal? How is it that you put God on a pedestal? How is it that you put a belief on a pedestal? And what would happen if you observed that continuously over time until you decided to withdraw, just to experiment? What would it be like? What would my existence be like if I withdrew my identification with this pedestal conclusion? That's our invitation for today. Notice more and more, day in and day out, moment to moment, where might I be putting someone or something up on a pedestal? One of the subtle tricks here is you might be able to convince yourself that you're not putting anybody else on a pedestal, and then in the next moment you have a thought where you're putting yourself down. And that negative self-talk screams at you in your head. Like Michael Singer talks about, the nasty roommate in your head. Please observe, as often as you can, that even if you've managed to create a pattern in your mind thought where you're not putting somebody else up on a pedestal, every time you're putting yourself down, it means you're at least putting an ideal of what you could have been or should have been up on a pedestal. The negative self-talk is every bit as powerful a way of putting someone or something up on a pedestal as the positive talk about someone else. And we just want to offer for your observation, your direct observation in your own life, what happens when you put anyone up on a pedestal, anything up on a pedestal. And yes, we acknowledged earlier that yes, you might have a brief experience of positivity, whether it's a relief or a buzz, a high. Oh my gosh, it feels so good to be aligned with the perfect guru, to be aligned with God, to be aligned with truth. You might get that temporary buzz, but stick with it and watch what happens. Because if I put it on a pedestal, it, he, she, it, they, whether it's a belief or religion, the concept of God, etc. When I put it on a pedestal, I have clearly put it in my perception as something that's outside of me. And now, rather than turning inside and asking to be shown, rather than tapping into the internal source for wisdom that each one of us has been given, I'm looking outside of myself, and I'm creating a belief that I'm not as good as, and that I'm separate from that which I need in order to be whole and complete. So, the invitation for today is to catch as soon as possible, as often as possible, any inclination to put anyone or anything up on a pedestal, including God, including Yeshua, etc., etc. And this wasn't planned. This was just something that popped into my head last night at an opportune moment, and that's why we're sharing it today. Observations like wisdom cannot be possessed, it can only be accessed. And observations like every time I put anyone or anything up on a pedestal in my mind, I've created the hallucination, the illusion, that I'm separate from that person or thing, and that I don't have what they have, and that I need what they have, and that only through some kind of interaction with stuff outside of me can I reach safety, happiness, love, enlightenment, etc., whatever words you might want to use for that. And as we observe over and over again in this work, that's never been the case. That's a false belief. And the more we can eliminate our attachment to false beliefs, the closer we move to being able to experience the actuality of life directly, accurately. And that's what all this work is about. Two-prong approach. Number one, recognize the source within you for wisdom and divinity. Number two, be willing to use a tool to dismantle any negative thought or belief that negative emotional experience you have that comes up that would refute the first observation of your wholeness, of your completeness. And we have specific tools for doing that available at whyagain.org, WHYAGAIN.org. Click on the red and white bullseye, download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Rice's book. Click on the direct link for the worksheet process, print it off and use it as often as you'd like, and then call us for support. We're here in our current format 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, and we enjoy sharing what we've learned about these tools and how beneficial they can be. And we've got about 8 or 9 minutes left. Time for a comment, question, observation, answer. 563-999-3581. Call that number, press 1. Let us know how this is landing in you or for you. Let us know if there's a part of you that wants to refute this in any way, shape, or form. 563-999-3581. We have a support group coming up next Tuesday and next Thursday. We have the weekend ahead of us. I hope people continue their gratitude practice throughout the weekend, and you come loaded for action and interaction on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday next week. Bring your comments, bring your questions, bring your experiences from the weekend, and let us know how we can help you with the application of the tools to anything that your experience has revealed that's less than love. So, comments, questions, answers? We're here. We have Michael and Jeannie coming up in the next hour. I don't know if they'll be live or doing a best of show, but as I mentioned, we have, I'm going to do my best to play the interview I did with Richard Moss on next Tuesday, because I will be busy doing another interview. And I would just strongly encourage you, once again, we do this every once in a while, to take advantage of the archives. The archives of the past nearly 11 years now are available. Some of them have been curated out by Jeannie to be highlight shows, but some people also like to just spin the wheel and go to whyagain.org, WHYAGAIN.org, and click on the microphone, the picture of the microphone, and then get over to the archives and just, randomly pick a date and listen to a show. The first 8 years of this internet podcast were 1 hour, 5 days a week, and the last nearly 3 years has been 2 hours, 5 days a week. So there's no lack of audio files to listen to and content to engage in. I used to like, when the weather was better, I used to like loading up one of those shows and then get on my two-wheel bike and ride out in the country. Occasionally just listening to the ambient sounds and the birds, and sometimes listening to the podcast. So take advantage of that. It's another free resource. Take advantage of all of the worksheets that are available. whyagain.org. Scroll down that page and look at the reality management worksheet, the 3 early memories of conflict worksheet, the codependent to interdependent worksheet, the mind shifter targeted journaling tool. The list goes on. There are a host of worksheets there that can assist you in your work and your process, and we invite you to take advantage of them. They're absolutely free. You can also choose, if you find this work valuable and you've got financial resources, you can choose to donate to support Michael and Jeannie, because they spend a lot of their time, intelligence, money, and energy making this available, the website and the all the resources and the internet show, and they have to spend money for all of it to make it happen. And yet they don't demand any money in return. They're just relying on people to choose to donate if they feel like this work's been of value to them. So there's a donate button there. You can click on it and use it soon and often. If you have specific skills and you don't have money, you can email Jeannie at JEANIE at WHYAGAIN.org and talk about how you might be willing to support this work or this effort through the application of your skills. I will remind us all that we come from love. We're made of this stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. Welcome, Jeannie Rice.
Thank you, Dr. Tim. I hope you had a good Thanksgiving yesterday.
And we did. Hope you had one as well.
We did.
I hope you continue to have a blessed weekend.
Thank you. You too. Appreciate you.
All right. Take care.
All right. Okay. Bye.